Ciao, hi. Hey guys, ciao, and hi, and hey guys on Facebook again, and once again. But yeah, normally YouTube is quicker, Facebook to upload, I think. But anyway, it's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video, and welcome to my thoughts on the new Black Wall Street, the official Black Wall Street, and how I hope to help them from one minority group to another. I suppose that gives me another idea which I want to cover. Not not a new idea, but it's something I've been thinking about. Like I'd love to talk about like why I, as a mixed race guy, wish to support the black community and that kind of thing, especially in February in America and Britain in October. Um, I believe POC should perhaps be more united. I feel a bit guilty about yesterday because I was very tired. I guess it's my own fault because of my diet and being an insomniac, drinking too much tea at night, and then struggling to wake up in the morning and that kind of thing. And I went to a neurodivergent group, and then I came back and I wasn't feeling too good, but then I started getting a bit lazy as well. So it's a combination of me being tired, lethargic, and that kind of thing, not eating right, not eating properly, not having any breakfast or lunch, just having tea. I guess a liquid diet, but it didn't. I guess when I have a lot of sugar, it's like people say it's like a drug. It gives you high energy bursts and then a big crash afterwards. So I guess it is my own fault because I'm very rebellious with my diet. Unfortunately, probably a bit of a waste of time lecturing me because I'm very stubborn. I'll be honest. If I'm honest. But yeah, so I didn't really do any videos. I was thinking about it, but I partly wanted to play Monopoly with a friend of mine. But anyway, nice life surrender. But I wanted to talk yesterday about. I wanted to write whatever I could think of, and I wanted to get my ideas on paper, but I had writer's block. I wanted to talk about what was on my mind and be honest, but I do fear offending people, and I didn't want to overtalk people in the neurodivergent group, so I tried to listen to other people as well and share information and listen to their stories and ideas, experiences and whatnot. And then I didn't make any videos or do much writing or anything like that. I did go through this a little bit through this brainstorm, but I was a bit shy on that, and I didn't really go through it in as much detail as I'd like. But I suppose there's not much I could do about that. But it is, I do feel like yesterday was kind of a day wasted where I didn't speak my mind, which I was thinking of doing because it's the third. I was thinking like freedom of speech or whatever. But in the future, on that note, on the 3rd of March, I hope to talk about my honest opinions. It's giving me an idea for like I hope to talk about my honest opinions on things like weddings, marriages, relationships, politics, business, and all that kind of thing. I know it. I've got to be careful what I say. I don't want to offend people, but some people say I decide to clean up half my friends list by discussing politics. But I'm going to crack on with the video today anyway. But nothing I could do about it yesterday. But I do feel it was a day wasted, and today I've been really thinking. I don't know if I'm going to have 40 ideas to cover, but I'm going to do my best. So here goes. So number one, I was going to say this in the intro, but I thought the video was going a bit long, so I thought I'd say it in point number one, which is I'm not going to talk too much about Black Wall Street. So I might give a brief synopsis, if that's the right word, big word for me. But basically, Black Wall Street was also known as Little Africa, but it was where the African American community, or some members of the African American community, built their own community of like shops, businesses, cinemas, and all sorts of things. And they were even black millionaires, and they did really well as a community. In fact, believe it or not, some people say integration was one of the worst things that happened to African Americans because it meant when they don't get opportunities and jobs, they fall further behind. So even though many people think of integration as a good thing, they said it actually kept their community behind. I don't know if people would agree with that or not. As everyone welcome different views, but I won't go into too much detail on it, as I say, because people can Google it, check it out on YouTube, TikTok, or whatever. And I hope to encourage. I do hope that people watching these videos will be encouraged to check up more on Black Wall Street and be intrigued to learn about the history if you don't know much about it. But yeah, unfortunately, I think some people were jealous of the success of some black people, so they didn't want the black community to do well. I guess humans' reaction to what's different caused them to be jealous, I guess, and for whatever, how they were brought up, perhaps they hate black people and whatnot. And that in that era, I think it was a setup that a white lady or a young white lady, I don't know how old she was or whatever, but she accused a black guy of assaulting her basically and whatever, but which I don't believe I mean, there's no evidence to say either way, but they said they weren't going to be given a fair trial. So they say if you don't hand this person in, we're going to there's going to be problems in there. And they said we're refusing to hand in one of our brothers, so to speak, or whatever, to face an unfair trial. So it's a very sad story about what happened to it. Pretty much got burnt to the ground. But again, there's plenty of stories on it on Google and YouTube, and I'm fearful about my videos being a bit long, and I do like to have my granddad nap at this time. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but something else thing I could say, but I'm talking about. I'm sure there's something else I was going to say, but I completely forgot. But I think I'm going to move on to point number 2, which is I would love to learn more about it myself, and again to encourage other people to learn about Black Wall Street through these videos and share any information they know in the comment section on Facebook or YouTube, whatever. I'd really appreciate that. I still haven't got around to making my own TikTok channel. That's something I also hope to do in March, which I hoped to do at the start of the new year. But yeah, some of my old habits and laziness and procrastination are dying hard, I guess. But as I say, old habits die hard and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'd love to learn more about Black Wall Street and how I, as a person from another minority group, can help, and how potential allies myself can help other POC minorities and whatnot. And what Black Wall Street can learn about other businesses to try and grow as a community and like trade together. I think it'd be quite cool if the Black community networks together around the world, and even with potential allies and stuff, maybe even POC generally, people of colour generally, and maybe working with other minority groups and things like that. So with other POC and or even minority groups generally, as well as each other, and learning from other businesses, teaching each other, and that kind of thing. Maybe even non-WASPs, people who are not white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, can network together, perhaps. One of my quirky ideas, and like they can network with Asian businesses and learn from them as well, and learn from each other. But yeah, what I was going to say is, like, I think it'd be cool if, like, let's say a black cafe could have suppliers who supply the coffee, tea, bread, and whatever else, pastries or whatever, all different black-owned companies that trade and network with each other generally. I think that would be pretty cool. So yeah, I was worried whether I would come up with ideas for these videos, but I think I've come up with a few. But I'm going to move on to point number 3 on that note. Again, coffee and tea companies can work together. And one of the things I wanted to talk about yesterday, because it was the 3rd, that's why I wanted to speak my mind and say my honest views on things, but I didn't want to overtalk other people in the neurodivergent network. So I should just let it go. But see, I think there's other things I could have said, or ideas I could have shared, or whatever. But I often think that anyway. I could have perhaps said this or done this differently. But at least I had the opportunity to go to this event, so I think that was pretty cool. But I think I wanted to ask about the case for whether the black community, African Americans in this case, or even the black community around the world, especially in the West, in Britain, America, Europe, and also maybe even in Asia as well, actually, in Australia and in Australasia, perhaps, whether the black diaspora should be outside of Africa, I guess, could be tax exempt as a form of reparations, especially in places where they've been through a lot of things like slavery, prejudice, and all that kind of thing. So I wanted to talk about the foreign cons. I was going to say the pros and cons against them for of such. But yeah, I'd love to see black people and other minorities maybe even working together to be tax exempt. I was thinking like acts to be tax exempt and that kind of thing. And also like imagining if there were black trillionaires in the future. There were 2 things I wanted to talk about yesterday, and I also wanted to finish off some other videos. But again, for some reason my stomach wasn't feeling too good, and I think it was because I didn't eat properly. So it was probably telling me I need to put some fuel in it, so to speak. Obviously, food being fuel or whatever. But moving on. But yeah, I didn't get around to that. But yeah, I'd love to know what people think about the pros and cons and pros. I like to say the best to last of tax cuts, or even a tax exemption for the black diaspora, and maybe even like tax incentives for companies like Walmart, IBM, Microsoft, or companies generally to invest into, sponsor, and donate to even the black community, like supporting black entrepreneurs, supporting Black Wall Street and that kind of thing. And moving on, number 4, I think instead of joining the military or being involved in wars and the weapons trade, the the black diaspora should be involved in like the legal system, which I've talked about before, but also even in terms of supporting projects like this, supporting black people in business, politics, tech, STEM generally, and all sorts of things like robotics, apps, designing, all those kind of things. And I wonder if there's a way, again, I suppose if they were tax exempt, then they wouldn't have to. I was thinking about tax choice anyway, taxpayers having a choice. So pacifists and conscientious objectors could refuse to pay for like militarism, wars, and weapons trade. I know it's a controversial view. People will probably say, "Oh, you need a military, or if you work in a society, you have to pay towards those things," or whatever other arguments people will come up with. But or they get the same protection, or whatever it is. But I think people should be given more choices. I don't really believe in like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that kind of thing. And I guess if the black community networked together, then they wouldn't really need that much. But yeah, they could network together around the world, network together generally, trade together, and that kind of thing. So again, a black-owned restaurant or cafe could utilize other black people to be suppliers for their company. So they could utilize coffee, bread, tea, and other food and beverage companies or whatever to and drink companies, obviously, and that kind of thing to supply them and like work together, network together, trade together, and that kind of thing. I'd love to know what you think as well on that. But yeah, instead of spending on wars, weapons trade, and things like that, military industrial complex and all that kind of thing, I think it'd be cool if the black diaspora supported their own people, including people in Africa and that kind of thing as well, and network together. Maybe they could do that internationally. And on that note, like thinking about how, before I move on to point number 5, I'll just say like how maybe like due to my patterns, I think of like the reason why I mentioned this on Wednesdays, because like I think Wall Street Wednesdays, because Wall Street as in starts with a W, and it's WS, but it starts with a W just like Wednesday. And I was thinking about the Windrush generation as well. So maybe there's some sort of connection where they could build bridges together and say, for instance, how the Windrush generation suffered from discrimination and were treated as outsiders and whatnot, and similar with the Black Wall Street and how it was burnt to the ground, that kind of thing. Number 5, hopefully tomorrow I'll cover the things I wanted to do yesterday, but was too tired and lethargic and demotivated or whatever to do. I still felt at some point I could have made a few videos or done something, but so I do feel a bit guilty that I didn't push myself at least to make 1 or 2 videos and talk about some ideas to benefit the black community. Reminds me of some people say, like I think they say Richard Branson and Simon Squibb, funny enough, dyslexic entrepreneurs, were talking about how like Simon Squibb says, if you don't set up this business, it's being selfish, because your business could actually help a lot of people. If you don't, Simon Squibb says, if you don't, again, for those who don't know who he is, you can always Google him if you like and check out his videos on YouTube and TikTok. You should pay me commission. But on a serious note, he talked about how, I know it's a bit of a side note, but he talked about like if you don't, if you imagine like if you don't set up this business or you don't work on this goal, imagine someone will die because you don't do it. A bit like, it's not a very nice thing to think about, but that feeling of pain as well, generally, if you have a pain in your life, to solve the problem, to solve, as they say, necessity is the mother of all inventions. But yeah, so I do feel that I could have done more, and I'm hoping this month that I can do as much as I can, and by the end of the month I will empower as many members of the black community as possible. And it'd be interesting to see, I think I was going to say it's in point number 4, but anyway, I think I'm going to say in point number 6 anyway. So point number 6, because I want to move on with the video, I think that it would be interesting to see what they can make or create, so design or whatnot. So how black designers, artists, architects, entrepreneurs, black people in banking can give loans to their own community. People could teach each other about financial education, financial literacy, as people call it, and they could network and see what they could achieve working together, like what games they could make, board games, video games, online games, websites, card games, and all sorts of different things, to see what they could create, and yeah, what they could build through the new Black Wall Street. And maybe it could be a wider network to connect black people together across America and even across across the Americas and Britain and all over the world, even black people who live in Asia and Africa and Australasia and all that could network together. Maybe I'm being naive, but these are some of my thoughts. And I guess one thing I forgot to say, I suppose I could say in point number one, and I almost forgot to say in point number six, but I know I mentioned how I'd love for Italian teams like AC Milan to have their own academies for African Americans as well as Native Americans and whatnot. So I hope to see that, and a partnership between teams like AC Milan, Italian teams like AC Milan, have their own academies and sports clubs, and hopefully hopefully they'll benefit as well. Like, so hopefully African Americans will invest in AC Milan and sponsor and even donate to the club, maybe, or at least invest into and sponsor it, and maybe some really good players from the African American community can be developed to play for AC Milan in the future. But so hopefully AC Milan and other Italian teams will benefit, but also hopefully AC Milan will be able to fundraise for education and to help the Black Wall Street. Maybe the Black Wall Street could advertise through AC Milan and like sponsor it and put their brand out there and that kind of thing, see what they could sell. In the stands and that kind of thing. Maybe there could be partnerships where they could talk about creative ways they can network together. Number 7, the same sort of thing for Celtic. And I often say as well, like, even though I'm not that religious, many hands make light work. And number 8, how I love to see how, as I say, POC, people of colour like myself and other minorities and potential allies could support the black community as well as like I say, the black diaspora working together, maybe even like POC, people of colour, working together, non-WASPs, non-white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, and working together against white supremacy. And I use these terms, I know I mentioned a while back, but I use these terms interchangeably, like white supremacy, neo-nationalism, neo-Nazism, the far right and Nazis and the extreme right and all that kind of thing. And I don't mean conservatives or people who have different views. I mean people who literally hate people who are a different colour, who hate black, Asian, and should call mixed race people. Using that hate, we could turn it to a positive thing. And one other thing I was going to say, I meant to say in point number 4 as well, and I was going to say in point number 8, is about, because it's Valentine's Day is this month. It's the month of love, I guess you could say, arguably. Even though arguably pagan, it's pagan or whatever, but I was thinking it could be, it reminds me of the biblical teaching, like, although I'm talking about God generically, not a specific religion or whatever, but I was thinking how the Bible says, like, turn a negative into, or what the devil meant for your harm will be turned to good or something like that. So I'm not sure if I'm using it quite rightly, but I thought, in spite of the fact that he or she, well, they let me down on a daily basis, I still love God with all my might, heart, soul, and strength. I know I sometimes say that. The more God supports my writings, videos, and things like that, the more, I know it's a bit of a side note, but the more I would, I suppose you could say that if you love God with all your might, mind, heart, soul, and strength, then that should be, it shouldn't be more than, you couldn't do it more, but I suppose it would be for longer. And also, I say the generic God, but if people want me to love Allah more or become Muslim, or they want me to love Christ more or become a Christian, if they support my writings and works, videos and whatnot in that, the name of that religion, then I would follow that religion. I hope that might make sense. A little bit of a side note. Maybe the black community could do the same, bring it back to the topic at hand. It'd be interesting, as I said, to see what they could make or create again, talking about bringing it back to the community. Number 9, I'd love to, next Wednesday, I hope to talk about 40 African American poets, and the week after that, I hope to talk about 40 African American artists. And I was looking through my calendar. Bear with me, I just wanted to look through my calendar. I'm pretty sure I found there's 4 Wednesdays. Obviously, this is the first of them. So I wanted to make sure, because I know there's only about 28 days in this month. But so the next Wednesday, the 11th, I hope to talk about 40 African American poets, because I did that for Black History Month in Britain, and I mainly wanted to cover Black British poets. So this time I want to talk about African American poets. The week after that, the 18th, I hope to talk about African American artists. I mean, also those who draw. There can be 2 types of artists. I hope to support both. I hope to support African Americans in all sorts of different industries, except for militarism or things that I think are disempowering. Mainly, as long as they're empowering industries. And because it's a Wednesday, I'm thinking of topics, but it could also be like the medical industry, in different industries like that. And on the 25th, the last Wednesday of the month, I hope to talk about 40, find out about and talk about 40 African American writers, as I call it, poor poets, artists, and writers. So I was going to go through more in the calendar, but I think I'll leave that for now. But yeah, so those are the plans for the next 3 weeks, all being well. Touch wood, God willing, Godspeed, and all that kind of stuff, or whatever. And number 10, I'd love to support young African American entrepreneurs and see how older generations could mentor them more. Maybe people like Damon John, or even people like Michael Jordan, Pharrell Williams, or even black entertainers, I suppose musical type artists, musicians, directors, producers, and members of the black community could teach what they know to each other and also invest in members of their own community. Maybe invest their money, maybe people like Lil Wayne, if you wanted to, Pharrell Williams, Dr. Dre, and many others like that, Snoop Dogg, and people like that could donate to young black entrepreneurs, or at least like invest in them and support them and offer them training and look at how they can network with them. So I'm sure they could be very empowered through networking together. And on that note, I'm out, and peace and love.